Good morning, and welcome to the Town of Braintree's Memorial Day service at Blue Hill Ceremony. At this time, please rise and pay proper respect for the singing of My Country 'Tis of Thee, performed by the South Middle School Concert Choir under the direction of Amy Olette. Please remain standing for the invocation by American Legion Post 86 Chaplain Bert Trumley.
Uncover. Heavenly Father, in thy hands are souls of the living and the dead. Remember, O God, we pray thee, the souls of the departed comrades, and conduct them into the place where thou hast prepared for them in thy heavenly kingdom. Bestow thy blessing, extending the healing power to those of our comrades who are still suffering from the tragedy of war. Lift up the hearts of those burdened with sorrow. Unto thy name be all honored, glory forever and ever. Amen. Cover.
Thank you, South Middle School Concert Choir and Veteranly. Guests, please be seated. I am Paul Marshall. I'm from the Braintree Veteran Services, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies today. I would like to thank you for joining us today to honor our fallen. At this time, please take a moment and look across the cemetery at the flags that mark the graves of these veterans. They are our heroes who answered the call when their country needed them, and their sacrifices made it possible for us to live in this great nation and enjoy the freedoms we have. At this time, I would like to recognize the commanders of the different service organizations of Braintree, the Braintree Veterans Council, Vincent Fontaine, American Legion Post 86, John Bourne, Veterans of Foreign War, Post 1702, Richard Wenzel, Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 92, Edward Menenza. I would also like to thank Jerry Ridge and his staff for preparing Blue Hill Cemetery to remember our fallen at the Garden of Honor. I would like to call up Mayor of Braintree, Erin V. Joyce, to give her welcoming remarks.
Good morning. I'd first like to recognize and thank fellow members who helped to make Braintree all that it is. And we have with us this morning State Senator John Keenan, State Senator Bill Driscoll, our State Rep Mark Cusack. We also are joined by our former Senator, now Clerk of the Courts, Walter Timilty. I see we also have Mayor Charles Kokoris here. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. We also have Councilor Julia Flaherty representing District 1 and Councilor Peter Morin representing District 6. I think in the crowd we also have our Fire Chief Freddie Viola and our HR Director for the Town of Braintree, Chris Ships. So I want to just recognize them and thank them for being here this morning. We are so fortunate to be gathered here in this beautiful Garden of Honor this morning, marked in memory of Corporal Gerald Gregory Bradley, a Braintree Marine who died in service to our great country during the Vietnam War. Corporal Gerald Gregory Bradley's memory lives on grandly in this space, grandly in the neighborhood he grew up in Braintree, up in Granite Park, and legendarily in the minds of those that knew and loved him. We remember you, especially here today, Corporal Bradley. Thank you also to our Veteran Services Assistant, Paul Marshall, and our Constituent Services Manager, Kate Naughton, for organizing this morning's event and memorial tribute to all of our American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, Guardsmen, and reservists, especially those who died in the lines of duty that we honor and remember this weekend on Memorial Day. I'm just a civilian and a citizen of the United States of America. Because of hundreds of thousands of brave lives lost to protect our country, because of the unchosen sacrifice of their families, I have thousands of choices as a free person, but I'm just a civilian. It's not lost on me this morning that my feelings of grief and memory on Memorial Day weekend are likely a lot softer than those of our brave veterans dispersed among us this morning. Some proudly wearing symbols of their service, others quietly among us here this morning, invisible symbols displayed, impossible to know. It's impossible to know anyone's grief, but I can only imagine the grief and memory that floods their hearts this weekend. Remembering harrowing memories of war itself, or remembering loved ones lost in battle, or battle in the years that followed war. In the last few years, I chose to run in an election to be your mayor. I choose each morning when I wake up how to best serve the town that I love, for the betterment of my children and yours, for generations to come. As a civilian, it's my humble way to serve our free country, to be elected by my peers, to be able to stand in solemn moments like this and deliver remarks that may, and I do hope, sit with you past the moments we're able to spend together this morning. Sometimes I think to myself, because if not me, then who? Who will serve? Who will stand here with you? Who will stand here and thank the Ridge family for their beautiful and generous hosting of our assembly today? I think that perhaps Jerry Ridge answered his family and our country's call when they wondered who in our town of Braintree could provide a beautifully quiet and cared for space to feel God's presence when visiting our loved ones who left us. I often wonder if that's what so many of our veteran residents wonder. If not me, then who? Who will display a remembrance on a quiet corner of a busy street, complete with waving flags and signs of remembrance, or host an annual golf tournament to keep young and old generations connected in the spirit of service to our country, like our veteran, Peter Chabon? Who else will, in their final days, visit a new mayor's office to make sure that our town's annual Prisoner of War Missing in Action ceremony does not get lost, but expanded? Until the end, former counselor and veteran Dan Clifford was a true patriot and a strong carrier of a torch he would pass that we will not let burn out. After a generous donation was made last year, honoring Vice Admiral Colin Kilrain, a decorated member of our country's military, for a new monument on our Town Hall Green, the town of Braintree has called on a special group of residents to continue a conversation on what our Town Hall Green means to us and how we can best pay tribute to those who have sacrificed their lives for the protection of our freedom. I want to take a moment to recognize the community members helping us with this effort. Veteran Tim Connors, Counselor Shannon Hume, veteran and artist Heidi Hurley, attorney and historian Carl Johnson, resident Catherine Kilrain, counselor and veteran Joe Reynolds, and veteran Peter Chavone. I asked and they answered, and I'm looking forward to kicking off a conversation which is long overdue. You're about to hear from Alexis Klein, an 8th grade student at East this morning, a wonderful example of the next generation carrying the torch of remembrance. We do not take our duty to remember lightly here in Braintree. We've basically sold out our Hometown Heroes banner spaces. Simply because when it comes to remembering and honor those who have fallen, if it isn't us, then who will? Who will place flags on the headstones of someone they've never met? Who will notice the mostly buried headstone of a service member of generations ago and dust it off to uncover the name? Who will pause to readjust a crooked flag? Who will replace a tattered old glory? Who will speak stories of service members and carry our oral traditions forward? Who will sing proudly our national anthem and cross their heart when we recite our Pledge of Allegiance? Who will serve our town, our country, and its people, however the call comes? The answer? You. And I know you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Joyce, for your remarks. We'll now have the reading of the Memorial Day proclamation from Governor Healy by T.J. Newcomb of the South Middle School Project 351.
Where areas while the nation was still recovering from the Civil War, people in cities and towns across the country gathered to honor the soldiers who had given their lives to celebrate the first Decoration Day. And where areas after World War I, the nation came together to honor those who had fallen in the service of their country. Renamed Memorial Day, the last Monday in May, is when people remember and honor the memory of all men and women who fought and died in all American wars and conflicts. And where areas throughout our country's history, thousands of Massachusetts residents have fought in wars and conflict to defend our safety in the way of life. And where areas their legacy of patriotism and dedication to the country is an inspiration to all Americans. And where areas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts residents must remember the bravery of those who gave their lives so that the sacrifice served as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Now therefore, I, Murray T. Healy, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim May 26, 2025 to be Memorial Day.
Thank you, TJ. I would now like to call up the former commander of the Braintree Veteran Council and post commander of American Legion Post 86, Al Balasso, to deliver General Logan's General Order of May 5th, 1868.
Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic. General Order Number 11, Washington, D.C., May 5, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie almost every city, village, hamlet, churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but post and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect of circumstances may permit. We are an organization, comrades, as your regulations tells us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind of fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and coast guards, and marines, who were united to suppress the late rebellion. We can aid more to assure this result than cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead and its foes. Their soldiers' lives were the reveille of freedom to erase and change, and their deaths, their tattoos of rebellious tyranny and arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the concentrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but fitting tribute to memory of our slain defenders. Let not one foot tread frugally on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or of neglect, nor ravage of time testify to the presence or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of freedom and undivided republic. And other eyes grow dull, other hands slack, other hearts cold in the solemn trust. Ours shall keep it well as long as the light and the warmth of life remains to us. Let us then, at time appointed gathering, around the sacred remains and garlands the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime, let us raise above them the dear old flag that saved from dishonor. Let us in solemn presence renew our pledge to aid, assist those who have left among a sacred charge upon nation gratitude, the soldiers, sailors, widows, and orphans. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year. While a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades, he earnestly desires the public press to lend its friendly aid and bring into the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for stimulation compliance there within. Department commanders will use efforts to make this order effective. By order of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief, N.P. Chipman, Adjutant General, and Official William T. Collins, AAG. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. At this time, we invite you to please stand, if you're able, for the performance of the Star Spangled Banner by the South Middle School Concert Choir under the direction of Amy Olet.
By the dawn's
Thank you, choir. We will now conduct our Memorial Day service to our fallen comrades. Now I would like to call upon the commanders of our service organizations to conduct our memorial service. The post commanders will now read the names of the members who have recently passed and fallen.
Good morning. These are the Braintree Post 86. This is members 2024 to 2025. Roland Ellison, past Vice Commander Roy T. Broughton Jr., John Ciriello, Edmund F. Kelly, past Post Commander and Life Member John Leary, Jack Leary we called him, Edward Marks, past Vice Commander John Mastranangelo, Charles O. Monahan, Arthur M. Morgan, Stephen J. Volovec, and Joseph P. Welsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Post Commander. At this time, a musket salute will be done by the 9th Massachusetts Regiment of the Continental Line. At this time, taps will be performed by Georgia O'Connell from the South Middle School. At this time, Braintree Never Forgets What Patriotism Means to Me will be done by Alexis Klein of the 8th grade at East Middle School.
Some people may think that one word cannot bring a country together. Personally, I think they are wrong. This word is patriotism, defined as the devotion and love for your country. Patriotism, a 10-letter word that causes people to remember historical events that have happened in America. When people think of patriotism, they might think of events like the historical rights movement or September 11, 2001, and how both played significant roles in bringing so many people together. They also may think of historical figures like President Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. When I think of patriotism, military soldiers who have fought for my freedom come to mind. I think of how they risked their own lives, leaving behind their families and friends to fight for my rights and freedom. If it wasn't for them and their bravery, I would not be free today. It is because of them that I can get a free education, high-quality healthcare, and voting rights when I turn 18 in a few years. Many veterans are forever impacted by the wars that they have fought in, but they did it for me and countless other citizens. Every day I am thankful that I can be free in my country. Some people do not have the privilege that we Americans do. Some people do not have the honor of being patriotic like I do every day.
Thank you all for that moving tribute to our country. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Colonel Francis J. Curtis, retired. Colonel Curtis has served for over 32 years in the United States Army Reserve. He's a native of Boston, Massachusetts, and graduated from Norwich University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1982. Colonel Curtis received his commission through OCS as an infantry officer in 1986, followed by assignments with the 26th Infantry Division and the 29th Infantry Division L. He has commanded at the company, battalion, and brigade level while also serving in key staff assignments that include battalion administration, battalion operations, and brigade logistics. Throughout his military career, he has served in diverse assignments including tactical, operational, and strategic levels of the Army, which have been joint, multinational, and special operation organizations. He was deployed as a battalion commander to the Iraq Theater of Operations from November 2007 to November 2008 in support of the 4th Infantry Division, Multinational Division, Baghdad, while emphasis on civil military's non-lethal lines of operation. Colonel Curtis is a graduate of the U.S. Army Basic Airborne School, Infantry Officer Basic Course, and Infantry Officer Advanced Course, Combined Arms Staff and Service School, Civil Affairs Qualification Course, United States Army Command and General Staff College, and the U.S. Army War College, earning a Master of Science degree in Strategic Studies. Some of the highlights of his awards include the Legion of Merit, 3 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart, Meritorious Service Medal, Army Achievement Medal, and Army Commendation Medal.
Good morning, and thank you for that introduction, Paul, and for the invitation to speak this morning. It's indeed an honor to represent our uniformed services and to have the privilege to speak about the importance of this very special day and to be here amongst so many who serve or have served. We gather as a community, united by gratitude, remembrance, and respect, to honor those who gave their lives in service to our country. I want to recognize and thank Mayor Joyce, local and state officials, Veteran Service Officer Paul Marshall for inviting me this morning. I'd also like to thank the VFW, the American Legion, and the DAV that worked tirelessly on behalf of all veterans. I'd also like to recognize my fellow veterans that are present today, as well as everyone who's come to join us. It is indeed an honor for me to be with you on this special day. War takes a heavy toll on those who cannot answer the call of duty. Protecting Americans comes at a great cost. I think of the men and women whose lives have been forever changed by war. I think of the young men and women who are no longer with us to experience the joys of life, the veterans who can't escape haunting nightmares and flashbacks, and the loving spouses who are now full-time caregivers. To our veterans here today, we thank you for your service. Your presence is a living reminder of sacrifice, resilience, and service to our nation. Your presence is a bridge between past and present, and a reminder that the way of life we enjoy today is defended by those who are willing to stand guard. You carried the burden of duty, and many of you have lost their friends in uniform. Today we stand with you in remembrance. On Memorial Day, we pause not only to reflect on the cost of freedom, but to recognize the immense courage of those who paid the price. We remember the men and women of our armed forces who laid down their lives on the battlefields, not for glory, not for recognition, but out of duty, loyalty, and love for this nation. Each name etched in stone, each flag placed at a grave, each folded triangle of stars and stripes handed to a grieving family represents a story of courage, duty, and ultimate sacrifice. These individuals stood up when called upon, shouldered burdens few can understand, and gave everything so that our nation may endure. Memorial Day is not only about honoring sacrifice, it's also about unity. And our differences and our diversity, we come together on this day as one nation to mourn, to remember, and to commit ourselves to the values these fallen heroes defended: liberty, justice, and peace. All across America, flags fly at half-staff, wreaths are laid, and names are spoken aloud. But here in Braintree, we do more than observe the national holiday. We remember our own. Here in Braintree, we are deeply connected to this legacy of sacrifice and service. Our community has a rich history of military involvement, with many of our own answering the call to serve in times of conflict. But honoring them is not just about remembering their deaths. It's about remembering their lives, how they laughed, loved, dreamed, and stood for something greater than themselves. We remember First Lieutenant Donald D. Ross, U.S. Army, 9th Infantry Division, who was killed in action during the Allied advance through Europe in World War II. He perished on September 5, 1944, in Belgium, and is buried at the Henry Chappell American Cemetery. We have an elementary school named after him in town. We remember Private Irvin Davis, who died during the Italian campaign, a critical phase in the liberation of Europe during World War II. Private Davis was assigned to the U.S. Army's 509th Parachute Infantry Battalion, and he perished on February 5th, 1944. He is buried at the Sicily Rome American Cemetery in Italy. We remember PFC Edward Stapleton, the son of South Braintree, who served in the U.S. Army and fell in the Korean War. More than 36,000 soldiers lost their lives in Korea, and there are still more than 8,000 missing. PFC Stapleton perished October 1952. We speak his name today so that it will not get lost in time. This year also marks a poignant anniversary. It's the half-century mark since the official end of the Vietnam War. For many Americans, this conflict remains a complex and often painful chapter in our history. The young men and women who served in Vietnam not only battled a determined enemy, but also navigated a deeply divided nation. Still, they answered their nation's call and endured grueling conditions. Tragically, more than 58,000 Americans lost their lives in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Let me share with you the story of Army Captain Morris McBride, a native son who served as a ranger and unit commander. Captain McBride could speak fluent Vietnamese and worked closely with the South Vietnamese Army. He perished on March 3, 1964, while serving just 30 miles north of Saigon. He was just 28 years old. He is buried at the Fort Benning Cemetery in Georgia. We remember Marine Corporal Gerald Gregory Bradley, who graduated from Braintree High School in 1966, where he was co-captain of the hockey team. In Vietnam, he served with Company E, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marine Division. On January 15, 1969, during a cordon and search mission, Corporal Bradley was killed in action. He was awarded the Silver Star, which is the 3rd highest award for valor. He was also a neighborhood paper boy, and he was well known in the neighborhood. As Mayor previously mentioned, Captain Bradley is honored with the memorial in his name at the cul-de-sac on Partridge Hill Road. A quiet reminder that greatness and sacrifice often come from right next door. His memorial serves as a tribute to the service and sacrifice during the Vietnam War, and his bravery and dedication exemplify the spirit of our community. We remember Ralph Caspol, Captain Ralph Caspol. He was a decorated pilot who once flew President Kennedy aboard Marine One. Captain Caspol served valiantly in Vietnam and was killed in action in November 1967. At the time, he was serving as a Skyhawk pilot with the Marine Tax Squadron 223, leading a strike mission. He is interred at the Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. Sergeant Frederick John Follett, Freddie to those who knew him, was an Army helicopter door gunner. He perished while serving with the 116th Attack Helicopter Company based 20 miles north of Saigon. He was just 21 years old. Sergeant Follett was a graduate of Braintree High School, class of 1965. He was on his second tour and served 17 months in Vietnam with only 1 month left to go before he would have been sent home. Sergeant Follett made the ultimate sacrifice, doing what he was asked to do. On this day, January 24th, 1967, Army Captain William Hingston Jr., who was a Huey helicopter pilot, he was killed in action while serving his country in the Binh Dinh province of South Vietnam. Captain Hingston was a former hockey star at Archbishop Williams High School, as well as a United States Military Academy graduate. He joined the Army while living in East Braintree. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for heroism in the elimination of an enemy weapons facility. He too is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. He was just 26 years old. August 7th, 1967, Army Sergeant Richard McAndrew, Dickie to those who know him, 21 years old. He was a squad leader of an infantry fire team. He was killed in action while serving with 8 Company, 1st Battalion, 28th Regiment in South Vietnam. He was awarded the Bronze Star with the V device. The V device stands for Heroic Actions in Battle. Sergeant McAndrew grew up with his 6 siblings on Howie Road. He attended Lakeside School, and he graduated from Braintree High School in 1963. On the day after Christmas, December 26, 1965, Major Louis R. Raleigh, an A-1 Skyraider pilot, was killed while serving with the 602nd Air Commando Squadron in South Vietnam. Major Raleigh was the first casualty from Braintree to sacrifice his life during this war. At the time of his death, he left behind a wife and 5 children. We walk in the footsteps of heroes. If they are remembered, they are not gone. They have simply moved to another assignment, and they are amongst our best. Each year, for the past 35 years, these and other Braintree residents who have died in Vietnam, and those who later died from their wounds or Agent Orange, are honored and remembered at the Braintree Vietnam Veterans Memorial Golf Tournament. The contributions collected are then given in the form of scholarships to high school students in their memory. Our own Peter Schiavone is a major driver in keeping these names alive. Peter, I know you're here today, and I want to acknowledge you for all you do on behalf of Vietnam veterans. These men and women were more than soldiers. They were brothers, sons, teammates, classmates. They were Braintree's own. Their sacrifice is not a line in a history book. It's a legacy that still echoes through our streets, our schools, and our families. Let me share with you a story that I live with daily. It's a story of two of my own. Command of American soldiers. Now, you have to bear with me. I still carry those scars. Command of American soldiers is truly a privilege and very humbling. To be entrusted with the lifeblood of our nation brings with it awesome responsibility. The loss of any soldier weighs heavily on a commander. Oftentimes, I find myself reflecting on one of my soldiers and good friend, Major Dwayne Kelly, who gave his life inside a city on June 24th, 2008. Major Kelly was charged with leading and protecting his soldiers. And as his commander, I was responsible for his health and well-being. Major Kelly made the ultimate sacrifice in support of his country in the hope of bringing freedom and opportunity to people who've known neither. To help you better understand Dwayne, I'd like you to know that he was a star football and basketball player, a gentle giant to many who knew him, and someone who often returned home to spend time with his mother. He was mobilized 3 times in support of the global war on terror. He was a loving father and husband. We called Dwayne the gentle giant, and let me tell you a little bit about the integrity of this man. Very big man, stood about 6'5", 260 pounds. And we were talking one day, and I said, Dwayne, you can be a very intimidating man. And he said to me, he goes, sir, when I was growing up, I was always bigger than the other kids. And I knew at a young age that I could use my size to intimidate people or to help people. I chose to help people. When he died, he was in a permissive area, and I reached out to him. And I said, Dwayne, I need to bring you to Sada City. And he said, why me, sir? And I said, because you're responsible. You're an adult presence. I have a lot of young soldiers here, and I need someone that's going to guide these young soldiers. And he said to me, sir, when am I coming? And I said, I'm going to have a couple of Blackhawks pick you up tomorrow. Pack up your gear. He showed up in my FOB, forward operating base, June 2nd. He got killed June 24th. So yes, commanders really do write the letter home to the family. Commanders do meet the grieving family. Travis Mannion was just 26 years old when an enemy sniper's bullet pierced his heart after he just helped save 2 wounded comrades. While Travis's life was relatively short, I still remember marveling at his wisdom and courage that he showed while under my command. Our heroes who died on distant battlefields cannot speak for themselves. They cannot stand to be recognized. We can and must stand for them to tell the world and their families that their perishing was not in vain. So as we stand in quiet of this day, may we feel not only the weight of the loss, but the strength of legacy. May we speak their names. May we remember their stories. And may we live our lives in a way that honors the gift that they gave us. When he spoke at a ceremony in Gettysburg in 1863, President Lincoln reminded us that through their deeds, the dead had spoken more eloquently for themselves than any of the living ever could. Let us pause with respect and honor on this Memorial Day to remember those who fought, for those who gave their life, and for those willing to stand ready without question when defense of our nation calls upon them. We owe each of them the highest respect and honor, and the assurance that their commitments to this nation's way of life will never be forgotten. I would also encourage all of you today to live your life with dignity the way they lived theirs. Thank you for inviting me today, Paul, and allowing me the time to honor our fellow Americans who gave their last full measure of devotion to our country for the freedoms that we all cherish. May God bless our fallen, the missing, and their families, and this great nation of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Curtis, for that inspiring speech. Please remain standing. And I'm going to go off script. Anybody who's been a veteran knows the loss. And Colonel Curtis, I know that pain. To knock on the door, to tell a loved one, you've lost somebody. My 32 years, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I just want to say, all service members, just take a moment and pause and think about the ones that have gone before us. So I know I've lost a lot of shipmates in my career. Just take a moment and pause and remember their names. I'll now call upon Bert Tremley to give the benediction.
Uncover. As we leave this sacred place, we hope that you all drive safely and thank God for our freedom and all the folks that we know and love have lost and is still to come. God bless you. Amen. Cover.
At conclusion, I want to thank all those who have assisted and partaken at today's ceremony, and let us never forget the sacrifices of these brave men and women. Thank you, BCAM, for broadcasting this event. And afterwards, please join us for our coalition at Town Hall at the Cahill Auditorium. Thank you, and God bless America. Thank you.